everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Chats from the Hive. My name is Beth and I am the dyer at Beehive Yarns, and this is a little chatty podcast just to talk about what I've been knitting and making and what else has been going on in my crafty world really. So thank you very much for joining me. If you're returning, then fantastic, thank you so much. As last time, I will start off the podcast by saying a big thank you to everybody who left comments on my last one. So that's just so nice to read through all of those and hope that I managed to answer them all this time, and to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing and what your crafting is at the moment and what you like to make. So thank you very much for sort of keeping this chat going, which is the reason and the purpose that I wanted to start the podcast really, was to kind of create a little community. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a lot of knitting friends in real life. I mean, I do in the sense that I know a lot of knitters and yarn dyers and love to meet up with them, but they don't live in my local area, so I don't have sort of local knitting friends that I see regularly, which is on me really, because there are knit and natter groups. Obviously we moved here just prior to lockdown, and then we had lockdown, which is my excuse for kind of not joining them previously, but I do think probably now is the time to branch out and maybe go and have a go at one of those. So yeah, let me know if you are a member of any knit and natter groups local to you and what you would recommend. That'd be great. So I've got quite a bit to share with you today, and quite a lot of what's been going on and what plans I have for the near future. I'll leave the plans for towards the end, and as normal I'll start with what I've been up to, I guess. So in terms of Beehive, September, October is our busiest months really. I think I might have mentioned this on the last podcast, but we, like many yarn dyers, our focus is really on advent calendars through those months. In fact, all the way through summer, if I'm honest with you. Advent calendars are such a big amount of work and a big endeavour, and they're a great deal of fun as well, so I'm certainly not going to moan about it. But yeah, so that sort of takes up a lot of time. So for me, recent weeks have really been about getting those orders out, and I'm pleased to say that they all left me on the 31st of October, so that was a nice Halloween treat for me, was to be able to wave those goodbye and then sort of relax for the rest of the day. So if you have ordered a Beehive Yarns advent calendar, firstly, thank you very much, and secondly, I hope that it's with you already. Everything was sent tracked, so if you are overseas and you haven't received yours yet, then obviously do have a look at the tracking information and get in touch if you have any questions. But I'm hoping that they're all on their merry way and will be with you soon, if not already. So yeah, that was a big endeavour. And just prior to the advent calendars, I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but I did do a Halloween box as well, so 13 days of Halloween countdown. I did mention it because I discussed the witchy books that I'd been reading. Yeah, it was the theme was coven. So they all went out again in September, ready for Halloween countdown. So it feels like the last few months have been very mini skein heavy in terms of how work goes, and lots of packing little tiny paper bags and stickers and things like that. So it's quite a specific time of year, if that makes sense, in terms of the work calendar. So I'm kind of quite glad to move on from that now. So yeah, and in terms of advents, I love coming up with the ideas, and I love dyeing the yarn. I love seeing people open them during December. I think I've done a full advent for the last 4 years with Beehive, and I'm thinking, I've had lots of sort of thoughts this year about how I can change that up potentially next year. So not stop offering an advent altogether, because it's a lovely thing to do, but maybe try a few different options to make it a little bit easier time wise for myself, but also, I don't know, a little bit more flexible in terms of people potentially purchasing them, because they can be very, very expensive investments for Christmas, and I get that, they're lovely. I love looking at other people's as well, but I'd like to offer, I don't know, a few more options. So it's something I'm mulling over. So enough about Advents. Except to say I have kept myself one. This is only the second year I've kept myself one. I did do one last year and I made a habitation throw with it, which I gifted to my gran, who'd just moved into a new sort of flat at the time. So that was nice to sort of, you know, give her that kind of new home gift. And this year I've kept an Advent back for myself, and my plan is to make something for my mum. I'll talk a little bit more about sort of future knitting plans later on, but I think it might be another blanket, so I'll speak about that a little bit later. So yeah, I'm quite happy about that. I also kept back a sock set as well, and my plan with the sock set is to make my husband a pair of Christmassy socks. So yeah, watch this space. Obviously I haven't started them yet, and if I had I wouldn't be able to show you anyway, so there we go. So yeah, so work-wise that's what's been on really. And next up, I'm currently dyeing a wholesale order for a UK yarn shop. I'm not sure if I can mention, I don't see why I can't mention it. It's Yak Yarn and Knitting. They're down in Brighton. I don't think it's a secret. So yeah, I'm doing a kind of seasonal gift yarns for them. So some sort of like bundles of yarns for them to put in the shop leading up to Christmas, and they're an absolute pleasure to work with, the ladies at Yak. So I don't know if any of them watch, but hi if you do. So that's been on the cards this week, and moving forward, my next big thing is our Christmas Eve box. So in terms of what's going to be keeping me busy over the next couple of weeks, it will be dyeing and packaging up our Christmas Eve treat boxes. And again, I don't love to dwell lots and lots about shop stuff on here, as you know, but if you are interested, then they close, the pre-orders for those close tomorrow, which is Wednesday the 16th of November. So if you fancy one of our Christmas Eve boxes, then do head over and have a look at our website today or tomorrow. And I've got some really lovely things lined up, not least a collaboration with Olivia from This Handmade Life, who is the pattern designer who's designed our sock pattern for this year's box. And Olivia's designs are absolutely beautiful, and it's just a real pleasure to work with her. So yeah, again, if you're a sock knitter or maybe just fancy a Christmas treat, then by all means have a look at those. The theme is very vintage inspired, very kind of retro sweets. It's called the Sweet Treats box, and the colourways that I've devised are all kind of sort of jolly retro Christmas colours, which I love. I love to sort of dye a real range of yarns. I don't think I have a particular palette that you could pin down to Beehive yarns, and I don't like to kind of restrict myself. So in the summer I really enjoy to dye bright colours and bright speckled yarn in particular. As we head into autumn, then like many people, I kind of crave the autumnal tones and the earthy tones, and the advent calendar this year was very much an extension of that. There was lots of kind of very earthy and nature inspired colourways, so to straight off the back of that to do something which is very, very different and much brighter, and you know, those kind of vintage vibes is really nice. It's a nice kind of palette cleanser, and that's kind of how I like to plan my year really, is to kind of dip in and out of different colour schemes and different themes, so that I can keep it interesting. Because, you know, whilst dyeing yarn is a marvellous way to make a living and very creative way to make a living, nobody wants to be dyeing the same thing over and over again, just in the same way that you wouldn't want to be knitting or crocheting with the same thing over and over again. So yeah, try to keep that interest going. So those kind of retro Christmas brights are the next thing for me, which is great. And speaking about kind of palettes, it's just made me think, when I started knitting, I actually started crocheting first. So if I try and work out when that was, I would imagine it was 2009, 2010. I was in my 20s and living away from home. Of course I was living away from home. My home was away from where I grew up and away from my family. So my husband and I lived near London, well, in a town called Reading, a city called Reading. I should edit this really. It's not a small place. Lots of people will have heard it. You'll have heard of Reading Jail if you're not in the UK, I'm sure. So yeah, we lived in Reading for a number of years, and you know, sort of had, you know, in our 20s had kind of quite stressful, busy jobs, and I took up crochet initially to have something to help me unwind at the end of the day. I think I've spoken about this, you know, in a previous podcast, but have something that was quite mindful and to take, you know, sort of really kind of relax from the day, which I'm guessing is similar for lots of people really, and why they turn to crafts. So I started crocheting then, so, you know, 10-15 years ago, and crocheted for the first couple of years, like lots of garments and, you know, lots of different things really, and then started knitting. But for the first few years of both crochet and knitting, all I used was grey or navy yarn, which is just mind-blowing to me now. And if you were to look on my Ravelry page, my projects page, you would see that all my original projects are either navy or grey. And the reason was because that's what I enjoyed to wear. You know, I enjoyed to wear muted colours, quite classic colours. You know, I might have had like a red in there, you know, for a little bit of a pop, but everything else was very, very monochrome. Because I kind of felt that that's what it had to be, you know, like, oh, this is something I'm going to wear, I'm going to choose something that goes with my black outfits or whatever. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my son that I actually started experimenting and buying and using more colourful yarns. So I'd even buy grey hand-dyed yarns, you know, even after I discovered hand-dyed yarns, I would still gravitate towards the kind of greys and silvers and muted tones. There's obviously nothing wrong with that, and I still love grey yarn. But it was so refreshing to, you know, start knitting and working with things that were different colours. And just a whole different world opened up of, you know, speckled yarn and variegated yarn and things like that. So looking back now, you know, in hindsight, I can't imagine just knitting with a single colour. So yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Did you know, since you started making or knitting things, have you kind of looked back and thought, gosh, what on earth did I do that for? Or have you changed your style dramatically? Or maybe you've changed who you make things for in that time. So yeah, like I said, it was having my son that kind of made me change, because I remember thinking, oh, I can knit all different colours now because I'm knitting for somebody else. And then it kind of, the penny dropped, and I thought, well, don't be ridiculous, you can knit anything you like, and you should wear these things as well. So hence, bringing it full circle, what I'm wearing, which is a very bright colour, certainly not something I would have knit with 10 or 15 years ago. So this is my FO to show you this week, this month. I know it's been a long time since I spoke to you last. And this is, I'll just move a little bit closer and move my hair. Somebody told me off in my first video for having my hair in front of my sweater. I'm sorry. I have long hair and I do always have it over my shoulder. So it's hard for me to change that habit. But yes, this is the ranunculus sweater, ranunculus top. By Midori Hirose. I think it's Hirose or Hirose. I'm sure lots of people will be familiar with this top. I'll just stand up a second so you can have a better view. So I've got it's kind of a cropped waist length. I don't like things too cropped, but it is cropped, with obviously a polo neck underneath. And this is how I usually wear my short sleeve sweaters in, you know, colder seasons, with a polo neck underneath, and I quite like that. And then obviously in the spring and summer I'll wear it just on its own. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this. It was the quickest knit, and I'm kind of quite aware as I'm explaining this that probably everybody who is watching this has knit a ranunculus top at some point or another in their lives, because it is, I don't know if it's the most popular pattern, but it's one of the most popular patterns on Ravelry. It's always in the kind of top 10 downloads. And I've had it, you know, I bought the pattern many years ago. It's been updated in the meantime, and I've never actually got around to making it. So I thought, a few weeks ago, I just thought I'm just gonna do it. I think it was because I'd made the saltier tee, which I was wearing in my first podcast. And I loved that so much, you know, just having that kind of bit of lace on the yoke, and the cropped length. It's so easy to wear. It was a really enjoyable knit, and I was really looking for something similar to do. And obviously the ranunculus is, you can make it in lots of different weights of yarn. So I think the pattern is written from anything from a lace weight through to worsted weight yarn. So you can make it in any of those kind of ones. You can make short sleeves, you can make long sleeve, cropped or not. So you can really, and you know, you can amend the neckline. You can really kind of make it your own. And I'd seen lots of versions of this with the short sleeves, and I thought, well, I think that's probably what I'm going to go for. So I cast it on. So I used a 4-ply yarn, and I used our new Folklore fingering weight yarn. I say that with some coyness because I've been mentioning this yarn for some time now and it's still not in the shop. I promise it will be there this week. So everything is dyed up, everything is labelled and skeined. I just need to take the photographs for the shop, which I don't know if you can tell from this video, but the lighting here is absolutely appalling. It's not stopped raining for more than 2 days. It really is so grey and miserable outside. And it's quite difficult to take product photos, so that's my excuse. But I am planning to do it this week so I can get the Folklore base finally into the shop, because I've had so many people asking me about it and I absolutely love it, and I would say that, but I do love it. So I used Folklore in the 4-ply version. I don't have this colourway to hand, but I brought some other ones here. Yeah, and it's just lovely to knit with. So it's 75% BFL, 25% Masham. They're both British wools, and it's the wool was bred and spun in England in a mill fairly local to me. It's non-superwash, which is lovely because I haven't knit with non-superwash yarn too much for a long time, because I often knit with, well, I mainly knit with Beehive yarns, and we haven't carried any non-superwash bases prior to this. So yeah, it's really refreshing, lovely and soft, and a nice thing to work with. And it's, I would say, quite a light, it leans on the light fingering side, so you get 400 meters per 100 grams, and it makes for quite a nice drapey knit. And the colour, as you can see, the colour is called Ultramarine, and it is a very bright, move that hair again, it's a very bright blue, which I love. I just fancied something really quite striking and different, and the yarn lends itself to bright colours because it's kind of got a grey mild base. The natural yarn is a grey colour, so it takes the bright colours particularly well, I think. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this. One or two things, I mean, I love knitting lace. I'll just show you that again. I think it's come out really nicely. I can see that already. If I'd knit it in a lighter colour, you would maybe see the lace a little bit more, but I'm happy with how it is. The one thing I would do differently, and this is entirely, you know, on me, is I chose to knit the, there's 2 different collars, 2 different neck options in the pattern, and I chose to knit the one that is the closest, you know, not the wider neck. Which I'm glad about, but I didn't do the provisional cast on for the neck. I tried to do it and I just found it so fiddly, I kind of lost patience and just did a standard cast on, but did it with a larger needle to try and make it a bit stretchier. Now, it's fine, I can get it over my head, but if I was to do it again, I would probably just use a different stretchy cast on. I wouldn't do the provisional, but I would probably do a slightly stretchier cast on, so there's a bit more give in the neckline. But I really like it, and I'm super happy with it, and I can see already why so many people go off and make, you know, 2, 3, 4 versions of it, because I can already see myself doing a DK version and a speckled version and a version with mohair and all the rest of it. So yeah, really pleased with this, and I think from start to finish it took about a week of knitting time. It was really quick. It's very addictive, you know, working through the yoke and the different lace patterns. Each row is different, so that's very addictive. And then of course you've just got the kind of stockinette going round and round. So yeah, if you are one of the few who haven't made one and you are a knitter, then I would recommend you have a go at the ranunculus, because it's a really lovely top to make. So yeah, that's that one. And just beside me, I have my other finished objects. So I showed you these last time, or I showed you one of them last time. One sock, I'd only had one done in the last episode. These are my pumpkin spice socks. So I knit these out of a colourway that I launched in October for Halloween called Pumpkin Spice, and did some little sort of cables at the top. that are meant to look a bit like pumpkins. I'm not sure they do, but they're quite cute. And yeah, just to kind of prove that I actually did do the second sock. So yeah, here we go. So I've got my nice little pair on my blockers there. And bizarrely enough, at the moment I don't have any socks on the needle, so I just mentioned I want to knit some for my husband. I kept some yarn aside for that, but I've been so busy with garments recently, the socks have taken a bit of a back seat. So yeah, I have to remedy that and cast some on very soon because I've got lots of nice yarn, including that West Yorkshire Spinners yarn I bought from Yarndale, the stripy one. I really want to make those for myself, so hopefully next episode I'll have some more socks. And it does make me remember as well, I did in the last episode mention about doing a video about socks, about how I knit socks and how to do, or how I do, should I say, the afterthought heel. I had loads of comments about that and lots of people sort of encouraged me to do that video, so I haven't forgotten. I've just been a little bit too busy this last month or so to do that, but I've written down some ideas of what to include and things like that, so I will definitely still do that little sock video, but I haven't done it quite yet. So maybe with my next pair that I make, I'll use those as my examples. Okay, so those are my finished objects. I don't think there's any more to say about those, so I'll move on to my works in progress. So as you know, I don't have millions, although I've been very tempted recently to cast on everything. There's been such a lot, but because I've chosen garments, they've taken a bit longer, so I've kind of been nicely absorbed in those really. So my first whip, I should say, is a garment as well. Let's hold that up for you. I'm quite far on, I'm just doing the ribbing on the hem at the bottom. This is the Strata pullover by Tiff Nealon. She's an American designer, and I said that last time about somebody. I think she's American. Part of me is now second guessing myself and wondering if she's Canadian or... Anyway, she's a wonderful designer. She has such a distinctive style. There's often stripes, eyelets, you know, really kind of subtle but striking colour work, I think. She designed the Stripes of Joy sweater, which is a DK sweater, if you've seen that one. But yeah, this one's called the Strata pullover. It is also DK, and I've enjoyed it very, very much. So I think it's almost an accidentally festive top, because the colours I've chosen really kind of remind me a little bit of Christmas. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting this finished and being able to wear it this winter. And again, this is knit out of our folklore base, this time in the DK, and the main colour for the main body is called Ship Shape. This is it balled up, and it's a kind of gentle navy kind of colour. You know, I say gentle, just bear with me a second. This is Lady Midnight, which is also a navy, and you can see that's on our sparkly yarn base. Oh, I love this colour so much. But this is a much darker navy blue, so you can see the difference. So a very sort of dark navy, and then this, which I would term as a gentle navy. It's got quite a lot of blue in it. But yeah, you can see there, you can see a little bit more about the makeup of the yarn, can't you? It's quite loosely plied, rusticy looking. There's a little bit of a hairiness to it, but not too much, and it's very, very soft and very squishy. So yeah, so that's the DK version. And for the stripes, I use 3 different colours. So the pink is called Mischief, and that is... if you saw my previous episode, I've knit a shawl out of that colourway previously, and I really like that. It's kind of nice hot pink. The light blue is called Glacier, and the sort of the light grey there is called Pebble. So yeah, it's three contrast colours and 1 main colour in any DK yarn. In fact, as I say that, it's worsted. So the pattern is written for a worsted weight, which is slightly heavier than DK. Worsted yarn is quite hard to come by in the UK. We tend to have 4-ply or DK or Aran, and worsted is somewhere between a DK and an Aran. Now my Dolly DK yarn base is a heavy DK and very akin to worsted, so you can almost do a straight swap really on any of the patterns. It's quite a heavy DK, but this isn't. It's 240 meters per 100 grams, so it's actually quite a lot of meterage. So I just went, what did I do? Did I go down? Went down a needle size with this, but you know, do a swatch. Don't do what I do, which is never do a swatch. You should always do a swatch if you're thinking of doing some, you know, using a different yarn or what have you. So yeah, it's written for worsted, but I'm doing it in a DK yarn, which I think is a reasonable swap. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lovely, beautifully written pattern. Sailing through it, the colourwork section didn't take me very long at all. It's all kind of, you know, in quite easy stripes, so there's no long floats or anything like that, which is good because I'm not a big colourwork expert at all. But I do enjoy it, and I enjoy the end result, so I'm very much enjoying that. And I think if I get the hem, might get the hem finished tonight while I'm watching the English. More about that later. And then yeah, it's just a couple of sleeves, isn't it? And you know, I always get stuck on Sleeve Island. I know a lot of people do, but somebody once said to me, it's just like knitting 2 socks. You know, you don't need to be worried about sleeves. So if I think of it as a sock, then I can kind of rattle through it a little bit quicker, I think. How do you do? Do you get stuck on Sleeve Island, or do you kind of race through? Do you knit a bit on each at a time, or? Okay, that was weird. I'm not quite sure what I've done, but I think I've managed to set some kind of limit on, so I'm looking at my camera, set some kind of limit on my camera that means that it's limiting the length of the videos that I can record, and it just cut off, so I do apologise. I can't think what I've done there, and I don't want to stop recording now because I've got to go and collect my son from school in a little while, so I want to kind of get through it. So it might be that it keeps stopping and I have to keep starting and then edit them together. I'm not very good at editing, I'll just say that now, so it might be a bit jumpy, but I'm sure you'll forgive me. Right, moving on. My next whip, I did show you this last time. I think I just cast it on. It's a crochet blanket this time. Make sure I've got it the right way around, and you'll see that I have made quite a bit of progress on it. I'll just show you it doubled up, it's easier to hold. I don't know the best way to show you this. I'm just going to put it in front of my face. There you go. A wall of stripes, granny stripes. So yeah, really enjoying this, and rattling through it, to be honest. I would have made a lot more progress had it not been for sort of getting a little bit obsessed with these garments that I'm knitting. But yeah, it's a lovely kind of project to pick up and put down, like all blankets are really. And that's my kind of colour scheme. So I think maybe last time I saw you I was up to, I'd only done this bit and it was all very, very muted, which I like. But then I started bringing in a few more brighter colours, which I like. I'll hold it a bit closer, which I like. I quite like how that is. So what I've done is I've used 10 different colours, which I'm just repeating. So I'm just doing 1 row of each and then just repeating the 10. So I'm on the third repeat now. And then between each of the rows I'm using a neutral cream colour, which is called Crema. And yeah, I think I really like how that's coming out. The main yarn, the Crema yarn, is DK. The coloured yarns for the most part are 4-ply, which I'm holding double, and I'm not having any problems really with how that's turning out. I think it's you can't tell, you know, there's no difference in gauge or anything like that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that works out. So I'm on the 3rd repeat and I'm on my 3rd skein of DK yarn. So it is absolutely eating yarn, this thing. So I'm thinking, given the size of it, I'm probably going to end up doing 10 repeats, and that should, well, I'm just going to do it until I run out of the main colours basically. But I would think, judging by what I've used so far, I would say that's probably going to be 10 pattern repeats, and therefore 10 skeins of the cream colour as well, and then I'll need more of the cream colour to go around the outside to kind of neaten the edges off. So it is going to be a very yarn heavy blanket, and expensive blanket in that sense, because it's hand-dyed yarn. So I mentioned in the last episode that all of the coloured ones are kind of test skeins that I would that I've used when I've been testing new colourways, so they needed using up, so I'm very happy to use that. But to use 10 full skeins of DK, I think, it's a lot, isn't it? So nobody sort of forced me to make a hand-dyed blanket and I'm very pleased that I have, but I wouldn't expect anyone else to, put it like that. The other thing I would say, and I really love it, the other thing I would say is it's so heavy. So this is the base, Dolly DK, that I just mentioned is kind of quite close to a worsted, and it is really drapey and heavy. So to say that I've not got too far through it, maybe a third of the way through it, it's really, really heavy. So it's going to be such a heavy blanket, but I quite like that. We have such a thing as a weighted blanket, don't we? So yeah, I'm just going to chug along at this on the winter evenings, and it'll probably take me a year or two, I would imagine, to finish it. Maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, it kind of lives in my poof in my living room, big kind of storage poof, and I'll just take the top off and plop it in there. It seems like quite a good place for it. So it's always to hand, and I can just pick it up and do like a few stitches really. Don't have to kind of do a lot at once. So yeah, I'm really liking that. So that was I'll pop this in the description as well, but I used the Attic 22? No. The name's just gone from my head. Lucy at Attic, whatever the number is. I'll pop the link below, but you'll probably be familiar if you crochet with her patterns, and it's a free pattern as well. So yeah, super simple granny stripe. I'll put it back in its poof, which is here. Right, so those are, just checking my notes, those are all my whips. So one of the things that I mentioned before was I've just been really wanting to cast lots on, and I think it's because this time of year there's lots of new pattern releases. There's lots going on, there's lots on Instagram, there's lots of new patterns been released, both crochet and knitting, and lots of crafts actually. I'm really tempted by this, but I might ask for it for Christmas. Yesterday on Instagram, a felt advent calendar, so it was like a felt stitching, and I've completely forgotten the name of the lady who designs these, but this is an advent calendar kit where the end result is one big Christmassy or festive scene, and each day you open the instruction, I'm guessing, or maybe the materials, I don't know, to make a particular element of that scene. So it could be like a little character, or it could be like a Christmas tree, I don't know, but I'm not describing it very well, but it just looked absolutely lovely. So I spotted that and I was like, oh, I really fancy that. But then I've got people like my husband asking me what I want for Christmas, so that might be something that I might ask for, because something like that, it's like when it's finished, I believe you can either obviously frame it, you could use it as a wall hanging, or make it into a cushion. And I just think that either a cushion or a wall hanging would be so nice to have as a future Christmas decoration. Just to bring out every single year, a bit of an heirloom piece that's had lots of time and love put into it. So yeah, I really fancy that. So all the crafts are calling to me at the moment. My cross stitch is calling to me at the moment, but I haven't put any time at all into that, full disclosure. So maybe next time, maybe by next episode, I'll have been able to do some cross stitch and I'll have some of that to show you. But yeah, there's just everything out there is just tempting me to get stuck in. And one of the things, so I mentioned about keeping one of my advent calendars back, and I really want to make my mum a gift because she's ace. She does so much to help me, in all facets of my life, but especially with Beehive as well. Every advent season she gets stuck in packing the mini skeins, and my dad helped this year as well. And my brother-in-law helped. He helps every year as well. It really does take a village to get those done. But yeah, my mum helps me so much. She's so supportive, and she really admired the blanket I made for my gran last year. And she's just had a sort of front room decorated recently, and I thought, oh, I could do something. She's very much into kind of autumnal colours. I thought, oh, I could make her a blanket. So I initially thought of the habitation throw again, because that's what I made my gran, and I've made myself one, and it's just a lovely mindless knit, very enjoyable knit. The habitation throw by Helen Stewart. But then Helen's brought out a new pattern for Advent this year called the Anthology Throw. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I'll try. I wonder if I can manage to insert a picture. I'll have a go. But yeah, the Anthology Throw is a circular blanket. Again, I think quite simple. It looks quite similar to the habitation throw in the sense that it's knit and then has a row of eyelets, and you can change the colours. And it's knit. Sorry, it's designed for either using an advent, so you can use mini skeins or scraps, or you can use any yarn. You know, you could do it in a single colour, you could do it in a sort of gradient set. But I thought, oh, a fun way to use it, the advent. So I'm thinking of casting that on for my mum. So I'm not 100% sure, because I still do think she'd like the habitation throw. And I'm almost tempted to make one with mohair as well. So I haven't decided yet, but that's definitely going to be a future cast on, and that's top of my list. And the other thing that I've got my eye on at the moment is a sweater called the Kohlrabi pullover. Just looking at my notes, and that's by Amy Christophers, or she's called Savoury Knitting on Instagram. And I think that was released this week or last week, and it's a colourwork yoke sweater. Again, looks, I don't know if simple is the right word, but it looks very striking. It's got a very graphic design, which I like. So yeah, that's also on my list. And somebody asked me, I think on the first video, about how do I know what to knit, or how do I kind of, you know, there's so many nice things out there to make. How do I decide what to make? I think that was the gist of the question. And lots of people do this very differently, don't they? You know, some people are really kind of into their Ravelry, you know, using Ravelry or another knitting database. I know that there are other ones now, to kind of manage a queue system and having things in a particular order and all that kind of stuff. And I do have a queue on Ravelry, but I don't use Ravelry that much. And if I see something I like, I will stick it in the queue. But on a day-to-day basis, how I kind of work out what I'm going to cast on next, I tend to use Instagram a lot more. Now, I had intended to show you my phone and what I do on it, but then stupidly I forgot that I'm actually recording this on my phone. So I can't show you my phone screen, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. But what I use is the save feature in Instagram, because I'm on Instagram every day. You know, I don't want to start a big conversation about the pros and cons of Instagram, because I think we've all found it quite different in the last year or so. You know, the algorithm is not as great, and you know, all the rest of it, and that's all true, but I still spend an awful lot of time on Instagram, both for my business but also just scrolling through and getting inspiration and all the rest of it. And when I see either a pattern designer's released a new pattern that I enjoy, or maybe one of the people I follow or one of my friends has made something that I like, then I'll save it into a folder on Instagram called Knit Queue. And you can't reorder it. It's not like Ravelry, where you can you know, give weighting to something, or you can move it up and down the list. It is just a bunch of photos stored, but I find that just the easiest way to kind of keep tabs on inspiration. And I also have folders on Instagram for, it's not folders really, but you know, when you save it, it'll ask you what you want to save it in, and you can set up different categories is probably a better word. So I have a category for colour inspiration, so that would be for my dyeing. So like if I see, could be absolutely anything. It's often outfits or dresses, or you know, landscape pictures or old films stills. I follow a lot of old Hollywood accounts, So yeah, anything that has kind of colours or colour combinations that I enjoy and want to kind of save for future dyeing inspiration, then I'll save into that category on Instagram. I have one for recipes, have one for baking. I don't do any baking though, so I don't know why. I love cooking, but I don't bake. There's no particular reason for that. I just don't enjoy it. And I don't like to eat it all at the end. So yeah, so I'll have recipes, I'll have colour inspo, my knit. I can't believe that happened again. I'm really sorry. A little message came up saying I'd reached the maximum video length or something. I don't know what I'm doing, obviously. But I'll just plod on and kind of string these together again. So, as I was saying, yes, folders on Instagram. And I'll have one for like general tips or just like random things that I've spotted. So that's on a day-to-day basis. That's how I will keep track of things that I've seen and that I want to knit or crochet or make. I have a separate folder for other crafts. So I have one's for knitting and crochet and one for other crafts where I've got like embroidery patterns or projects or things like that. So yeah, that's basically what I do. Nothing fancy. Nothing flash. I know lots of people will invest in, you know, a planner. So I do have a planner. I do get a planner each year, which I use predominantly for work, or for like just managing the general household, you know, kids stuff. But I'm not very good at updating it. I'm not really a big, like, I obviously do plan things. My friend Gemma would laugh at me for this. She thinks I just fly by the seat of my pants constantly. There is an element of that. But I do plan things. I do plan a lot ahead in my mind. But when I like write things down and I'm like, oh, on this day I need to do this, and it just goes. It doesn't get done. And I start kicking myself because I haven't done a particular thing on a particular day. So that is just not how I work. So I'm going off on a tangent, but that is to say, I know a lot of people like knitters planners, and you can get, you know, stationery that's been designed especially for planning projects and holding, you know, swatches and things like that, and that works for a lot of people in terms of keeping track of what they want to make and what they are making, things like that. But I just tend to use my project page on Ravelry. I will put finished projects on there. I don't go overboard with the information that's stored, but I do kind of add a photo, and then yeah, I use my Instagram thingy, and that's how I kind of manage what I want to make. So that's it. That's my plans. That's my knitting plans thus far. What's up next for me? So work-wise, I mentioned we've got some wholesale orders on at the moment, and we've got the Christmas boxes. So November, we're on I think it's the 15th today. November, the rest of November we'll be getting those ready, and I absolutely love that because it's Hallmark season, guys. Hallmark season. So what I do when I'm packing the Christmas Eve boxes is I'll get everything in boxes in my living room, and I'll put a Hallmark cheesy Christmas film on the TV, or several, because let's be honest, this is days work I'm talking about here. And over the course of several days, I will just watch back-to-back Hallmark Christmas films whilst I'm packing these boxes. I am under no pretension that these are good movies. Like, please don't, you know, take me that I'm a big fan. But I love it. It's part of Christmas for me. And over the last few years, whenever I've been doing Beehive big packing stuff, I've always done it with the Hallmark movies on at this time of year. And this year my mum's going to come and help as well. So, you know, she's not into that cheese either, but she'll like being with me, and maybe we'll have put some Christmas songs on or something like that. So that's my November plans for work. I need to get this folklore yarn on the website. Christmas box is closed tomorrow, as I said, pre-orders. And then I need to dye some Christmas yarn because I haven't actually done that yet. So, you know, for the actual shop. And I've got some really nice ideas of what I want to do. I think there's going to be a real kind of retro vibe. There most often is for me at Christmas. It's usually kind of, I've got a colourway, for example, called Tacky Tree, and it's a pink Christmas tree with like lots of bright colours on it. So that will be coming back. So yeah, I tend to kind of, it's a bit of a palette cleanser, like I said, and I tend to go for those kind of bright retro colours at Christmas. So I need to get on and do that. And yeah, and then it's fresh, and I love this time of year. Obviously, I really love not obviously, but I really love Christmas, and I love the festive season. I love my, my son being off school, etc. But I also really like New Year, because not the celebratory side of it, because we don't celebrate, but I love the sort of fresh start. And I always have a sale on Boxing Day. And sort of try and clear the shelves and start with brand new inspiration, brand new colourways, brand new palette in the new year. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I've got on shop wise. I'm really mindful. There's like a counter above my head on the screen telling me that this video is going to stop in 2 minutes. I don't know what I've done, guys. I do apologise in advance, but it is going to stop again, and I am going to restart it. So I'm just saying that. And there's like a big orange bar here counting down. Honestly, I get myself into some situations sometimes. It's not even that I'm tech, what's the word I'm looking for? Illiterate, because I'm not. I used to work in tech. I'm actually not too bad. My husband would laugh at me saying that, but I'm actually not too bad, but I don't know what I've done here. Anywho, I thought I would end this video by, like I did the last one, by saying a bit about what I've been reading and what I've been enjoying outside of the world of knitting. Well, actually, they're all kind of intertwined. As I've said before, when I'm knitting or crocheting, when I'm crafting, I'm also probably either listening to something or watching something, and those memories then stick with the project that I've made. So to me, they all kind of meld into one, really. So I'll start with what I've been reading. So this is a lovely cover for an edition of The Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and I show you this because our advent this year, A Year at the Cabin, was very much inspired by this book in particular. So I really love all of the Little House books, but this is by far my favourite. And I say, oh, it's got a lovely cover because it has, but the book is really disappointing because there's no illustrations, which makes me sad. So I thought I'd show you that because I saw this on Instagram actually. I'm sorry, it has gone again. I'm back. I've got all of the books on my Kindle and paperback somewhere. I'm not quite sure where they are. But I've got them on my Kindle and I read them on my Kindle. But I thought I'd treat myself to this because I thought, oh, it's nice to go with the Advent and maybe I'll do some nice photographs with the book in, etc. And, it looks like a nice addition. But it doesn't have any of the illustrations in, and I was therefore disappointed. But if you haven't read A Little House in the Big Woods, I would heartily recommend it. It's just a really lovely, it's written for children, but it's a really lovely story and just gentle tale. Well, it's not really a tale in the sense that it has a beginning, middle and end. It's a description of somebody's life in a more innocent time. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I read that regularly, certainly yearly, and obviously on the lead up to doing the Advent, I've been reading that. So yeah, so that's a recent read. And then a bit more recent, on my Kindle, I've read Kate Atkinson's latest novel, which is called Shrines of Gaiety. Kate Atkinson is a UK writer. She was born in York, same as me, and I really enjoy her books because she often references York. So this latest novel is set in London, but a lot of the characters are from York, and she describes even though it's set in the mid-1920s, some of the elements and the places that she describes, so the Theatre Royal, the chocolate factories, the Yeasley swimming baths, are all still fixtures in my hometown, and it made me really kind of a little bit homesick really to read it. I said that to my mum. My mum really wishes that I still lived in York, bless her. It's only down the road, it's only 25 miles away. But yeah, so I enjoyed that, and it was my mum's book and I pinched it. So here's a bit of a tip for you if you don't know this. My mum is the most voracious reader there is. She gets through hundreds of books. Like, she's a bookworm through and through, which makes her very easy to buy presents for, which is great. And she got her Kindle long before I ever got a Kindle. You know, I was still reading paperbacks and stuff. Anyway, we've synced our Kindles up. There's a feature. It's not well publicised at all, understandably why. But there's a feature on Amazon where if you can link two households. It's not any kind of, it's completely legal. It's completely there for you to do. But like I said, they don't publicise it very much, so it's not a get around that I've done to try and get things for free or anything like that. I couldn't tell you how I did it because I did it years ago, but if you go onto Amazon and look up households, you can share your Kindle library with somebody else. So my mum and I have had this for I don't know, 6-7 years or whatever, where we've basically shared our Kindle library. So any books that she buys, and she buys a lot, I can download onto my Kindle and vice versa. And I think you can only do it with one other person, which obviously makes sense. But yeah, we make full use of that because we both spend an awful lot of money, on books. And we love to share them. And so she'll sometimes phone me or she'll message me. She'll go, "Oh look, I've got the new Kate Atkinson. You read it, But even if I start a book before her, she will always. Oh, I'm really hoping that's the last time that's going to happen. She just reads much faster than I do. She has more time, I'm guessing, as well to read. Hope she wouldn't mind me saying that. But yeah, so I read her Kate Atkinson book and I enjoyed it very much. I do like all her novels. I don't know if you guys have read any Kate Atkinson. She wrote Behind the Scenes at the Museum as her first novel. Yeah, really good. So I do recommend her. I'm sorry, I feel myself speeding up because again I know that the video is going to cut off, and I know I can edit them back together, but it's making me a little bit jumpy. So I apologise if I'm rushing too much. So yeah, so that's what I've been reading. So that novel was set in the 1920s, which is a really interesting period of history, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, so I recommend. So in terms of TV, so I mentioned last time The Serpent Queen, which is, I can't remember which streaming service it's on, to be honest with you, but we've finished that since, and I really enjoyed that. That was really good. It's about Catherine de Medici, starring Samantha Morton, and I just really liked that. I thought it was historical drama done well, and hopefully there will be another series of it. I really hope so, because it was really enjoyable, so I recommend that very much. And since then we've also watched The House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones spin-off, if you like, and I thought that was fantastic as well. I love Game of Thrones, and didn't realise quite how much I missed it until I watched this, if you see what I mean. But I thought it was a very worthy successor. I think sometimes, with sequel, in this scenario, it's a prequel-ish, a standalone series really, but sometimes, with the spin-off you think, is it going to be, can it be as good as the original, or can it be as engrossing? And it really was. I thought it was fantastic, really well acted, and yeah, again, looking forward to the kind of what they do next with that. And Marcus, my husband, has said that they've got lots of kind of Game of Thrones spin-offs planned, so quite interested in that. We also watched the Lord of the Rings prequel as well, again, The Rings of Power. I enjoyed it. I love that, I love Tolkien, I love the books, and the characters. I didn't think it was as, it was certainly not as good in my opinion as House of the Dragon was, and it was, I think it's coming for quite a bit of criticism, and I can kind of see, I can see the basis of some of that. It was a little bit long and meandering, but still enjoyable, and still nice to get back in that world. And I do love fantasy series like that, when they're done really well. So yeah, that was good. I don't know if you guys, I know lots of people have watched both both series. I'm interested to hear what you think of those as well, and certainly no spoilers from me, because I know there'll be people who haven't watched them yet and who want to. But they're both series that I would recommend. But the House of the Dragon, I loved the most. And now we're watching a series called The English, which is absolutely brilliant. So I'm only on episode 3 or 4, I think. It is a Western series starring Emily Blunt and the most amazing cast imaginable, whose names I can't spiel off at the moment. But really, really recommend it. So far, at least. I mean, it could turn. I've only watched episode 3, but I'm getting very, very good vibes, and I really enjoy Westerns and that kind of learning more about that period of history. So yeah, that's what we're kind of watching at the moment. So yeah, that's me. Again, I feel a little bit rushed and hurried at the end. I will leave it here though and say thank you very much for watching, and I hope it hasn't been too off-putting with all the chopping and changing around. I'm going to have to teach myself how to do a bit of editing now, aren't I, to fit all these videos together, and then do some Googling as to why the problem has occurred in the first place. But yes, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you all have a lovely week ahead, and I will see you next time. Thank you.